Hey, what's up guys? Alex here with a new video, and today I want to talk about the Canon EOS R6, specifically from a wedding photographer's perspective, and why I think this should be your next camera. Now, throughout this video, I will be putting up pictures I took with my Canon 1DX Mark II 2 years ago when it used to be my main camera. Why? Because that camera also had a 20 megapixel sensor, and that did not stop me from producing stunning images and images that I was extremely proud of, and images that actually printed very well. 20 megapixels is enough. So I'll be putting those up to prove a point, but let's go ahead and get started. The Canon EOS R6 retails for $24.99, which is a pretty good price point. Now, when you think about flagship cameras or cameras with flagship specs, they're usually in the $3,000 range or above, right? The Canon 5D cameras have always launched around that price point. Sony did break the camera industry 2 years ago with a Sony a7 III launching at $2,000. So I think that kind of changed the game, right? But when we saw the R6 leak, when we saw all the rumors, we all figured the R6 would be crippled, right? Canon would not release a camera that's, I'm gonna say budget friendly because it's a flagship camera. So budget-friendly camera with all the specs that were leaking, and they did. So let's talk about it. The Canon EOS R6 is rocking a 20 megapixel sensor. Now, it might not seem like a lot, right? You have obviously the R5 coming out with 45 megapixels. You have the Sony a7R series. Hell, you have the Canon EOS R, which I'm filming with right now, that has 30 plus megapixels. So from that perspective, it almost looks like a downgrade, right? But if you think about it, 20 megapixels is the sweet spot for wedding photography, right? When I shot with the 1DX Mark II, what was awesome about having 20 megapixels was I could put a 128 gig card, and that's all I needed for the wedding day. So the files were just a lot smaller, they were a lot easier to import and edit and manage. But what was awesome about the 1DX Mark II is the files were still gorgeous, right? You still had the Canon color science, and I never had a complaint on resolution when I used the 1DX Mark II. And when you think about printing pictures, 20 megapixels will be able to print fairly large sizes without any issues. So I don't see it as a bad thing. As a matter of fact, there could be pros when we look at the ISO performance, right? With lower megapixel count means each megapixel gets more light, which should yield higher ISO performance or better ISO performance. And again, for wedding photography, that's super important, right? The camera also has IBIS. Now, this is a feature that a lot of people have requested, and personally, for wedding photography, it's cool, but I don't see it necessary because when you think about it, weddings, and as far as how I shoot weddings, very candid, right? There's motion involved, which means, yeah, if I can hold a camera at 1/5 of a second, that's cool. But if a subject's moving, then they're gonna be blurry, they're not gonna be sharp, right? So for me, IBIS has never been a big deal. And for wedding photographers, it probably shouldn't, because again, you need to keep your shutter speed up, right? To freeze the motion that's happening in front of you. So it's included, it's cool to have, it's a nice feature, right? But I'm not super excited about that part. The camera does have dual SD card slots. People have been asking for that, right? So you have backup for your photos as you're taking throughout the wedding day. Now, it was a big deal with the Canon EOS R launching with one SD card, right? This camera has two. People really talked about having redundancy and how important it was. So now that you have two SD card slots here, you don't have to worry about losing your photos or SD card going corrupt. It's nice that you have these features that people have been asking for. It's kind of weird to think that Canon listened to the consumer, right? They pretty much added everything people were asking for. So like if you look at it from the sensor to the dual SD card slots, I think it's a slightly bigger body, which again, I'm excited about, and a newer battery, right? So you should have better battery life. All super exciting. The R6 also has 20 frames per second electronic and 12 frames per second mechanical. Again, for wedding photography, 5 frames per second with the Canon EOS R never failed me. It's nice to have more features, right? When you start thinking about this, right? Thinking about how these little add-ons, right, might not be crucial, they might not be super important, but they're nice to haves. One day you might need it, right? So are those groundbreaking? Are they going to impact your wedding photography day one? No, but you might run into a situation one day where you might need it, and guess what? Now you have it, right? So welcome addition, having higher frames per second on electronic and mechanical. But overall, when you look at all those specs from a wedding photography perspective, like, I think this is the camera to get, right? At $2,500, you can almost buy 2 of these for the price of one EOS R5. And again, the benefit is you have everything you need for wedding photography. The R5 has 45 megapixels. That's a lot. Now, I'll make a separate video talking about that camera, right? Because it has its own spot. But from a photography perspective, it's not much different, right? The EVF is sharper, but other than that, you're not really missing out on much. So like from a wedding photography perspective, I think the R6 is the way to go. Now, even when you think about video, right? Every wedding videographer I've run into, now I don't do both photo and video. I should, I'll probably get into it, but every videographer I've ran into always shoots in 1080p, right? Again, managing file sizes. The R6 shoots 4K, 4K 30, 4K 24, 4K 60, and 1080 120, right? So even from a videography perspective, you do have a lot of flexibility in how you're shooting video. Now, one thing to note, the R6 does shoot at a compressed video format. So Canon usually provides 2 video formats in their cameras, right? Like the Canon EOS R right now. It's all light compression and IPB compression. So all light is going to give you a higher data rate. It's going to give you a bigger file, right? But you're going to have more information to play with. IPB is going to be a smaller file, more compressed, but you'll be able to fit more in your memory card. The R6 won't give you that option. Every single video option you film with that camera will be IPB. Does that make a huge difference? It can, right? If you mess up your shot, you're gonna have less flexibility, so you have a more compressed file. But if you have an Atomos Ninja 5 like I'm recording right now, you can still use that and record at 422 10-bit ProRes, right? So you kind of get around the compressed video codec by using an external recorder. So if video is your thing, the small little limitation you have with the file formats, you can literally fix by having an Atomos Ninja 5 recorder, which is lightweight, small, and again, unlocks ProRes for you, right? So I think the R6 is just, Canon knocked it out the ballpark. This camera is gonna sell a lot, right? I think the price point is there, the specs are there. I haven't even talked about the autofocusing improvements. Like, this camera is gonna fulfill every wedding photographer's needs, in my opinion, and that's why I'm picking one up. So I am super excited to try this camera out. It literally checks off every box, and I just can't believe I'm saying this. Like, Canon did it, right? I'm a huge Canon fanboy, I'll tell you right now. I wasn't expecting them to do it, but they did, right? So super excited for the R6. Those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Are you as excited as I am? Just let me know below. I will also be posting another video talking about the EOS R5 and why I will also be picking up that camera. So if you want to check out my thoughts on that, please subscribe to my channel. Please don't forget to like, it really does help out the channel. And stay tuned, I will be doing tons of videos on these cameras. I'll be comparing the R5 to the R6. I'll be comparing the R6 to the EOS R and so on, right? So I'm super excited to kind of test out all these cameras and get to check them out. But guys, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace.